The Antaeus assemblage approaches. You have cost me my freedom and my future. Behold the consequences of your success, your perfection, your synchronous symmetry. This is the price I have paid for the sake of my revenge. Combat Units V1, J9, and C5 surrender higher cognitive patterns. Combat Unit Munitioner, relinquish motor and servo control. All units execute C3 subroutine. Merge and combine! Combat Unit J9, relinquish motor and servo control and synchronize with Combat Unit Munitioner. Connecting to podiatric stabilizer. Munitions management functions engaging. Starting sequence counting down. Combat Unit C5, activate power link thrusters. Torso reformation in progress. Synchronize with Combat Unit Munitioner and synergize power link connection ports. Armor upgrades locked in. Main AI control circuit blocks in final data synchronization. Combat Unit V1, convert to ambulatory substructure mode. Stabilizer and gauntlet locked in. Connect to main AI control circuit block B. Combat Unit C5, synchronize and synergize power link connection port. Munitions management functions fully engaged. C3 armaments formed, docked, locked, and loaded. All subsystems checked and synchronized. Docking with main AI circuit control block A and assuming ambulatory substructure mode. Gauntlet locked in. Combat Unit C5, synergize power link connection port and prepare for total synchronization. C3 systems synchronized and online. I am assuming direct control. Colossus awakens!
The Combat Unit Combined Colossus, C3. Bruticus? This guy is bloody the F tall. I just want to get that out of the way right now. I mean, maybe it's not clear how tall he is. He is really bleeding tall. And what's really wonderful about him is that his silhouette is so well balanced, and that's what the biggest success of this Fansproject release is to me, outside of the really cool pair of little robots you get as well. He looks like a burly, built, military muscle man who's armed to the teeth. And what really helps pull that off is the pair of shoulder extension blocks. Those are what make this guy, in my opinion. While the Colossus has a lot of posability, there is one unfortunate hindrance, which is that this weapons backpack actually kinda gets in the way when it's fully loaded, especially the shotguns. Now, this arm is designed quite well. You can still, well, that part did fall off. And let me explain why. This rifle is not actually meant to go back there, at least it's not in the instructions. It just happens to slot in there really well and tends to hold itself in pretty decently. But if you apply a little bit of force this way, then that will pop it right out. Anyway, as I was saying, this arm is designed pretty well in that it can maneuver itself around the shotguns with very little effort, and there aren't too many problems over there. It's over here where the problems begin. Now, according to the instructions, this is how to transform the arm. These forearms smack into that shotgun immediately. It's the fin sticking off the side. Now, there is a fairly effective alternate transformation by which you fold the arms down like this. It clears up the problem of the forward and backwards motion, but now you can't turn the shoulder up at all because it bangs into the shotgun right there. This little dude is a bit troublesome, and really the easiest thing to do is just pop the shotguns off. Also, it's very easy to pull the whole backpack off, only because of plastic tolerances, and maybe it's, again, just a case on mine, but the pegging system this thing uses to go in to the back is a little bit uneven on this copy of the Revenge of the Fallen release of the Bruticus Maximus mold. With all those hindrances out of the way, now we can see how this dude poses. This ball-jointed head, highly emotive, beautifully done, only good things to say here, though there is a small problem in that In order to fit into the vehicle mode of Onslaught, or C5, it's actually been designed to be able to tilt forward and have these antennae fit into the peg holes in the fists that would be right in front of it. Problem is, if you do anything wrong, it's really easy to bend these antennae down horrifically. To Fansproject's credit, these antennae are made from extremely strong plastic. I would dare say it's probably the same stuff as the Defender's sword, because on mine they did get horrifically bent forward. I was able to waggle them back and forth. I just had to add a small drop of superglue pushed into the crevice there with a toothpick, and now they are dead solid again. That said, if you want to be totally safe, just pop the head off the ball joint when you transform the torso back to vehicle mode. He's also got mighty ratcheting joints on the enormous shoulder cannons on his backpack. They can point at things just above him, they can point at things in front of him, and they can even point at things behind him. The Colossus cannot be easily snuck up upon if he hears you coming. Each shoulder is afforded a nice ratcheting motion by the existing connection points, as well as a really heavy ratcheting outward motion in the extender block. Now on the Explorer, there is an elbow joint, an almost double-jointed elbow, built in through the leg posability. Only downside is that the joints at the hips are much more easy to move than the heavier knee joints, and I kind of wish it was the other way around. Also, that ratcheting waist I loved on the Explorer makes for a ratcheting bicep swivel, which is not very hindered. It does bump into things a little bit here, so you gotta learn how everything moves around to a small degree. Also, the wrist, it can twist on the peg that it's mounted on, and it's a little bit loose on this peg, as you can see. Luckily, the feet are tight enough to move up and hold it in position wherever you need it to go. Now, the hand. Each hand is identical, and these are beautifully done. Each finger is on a ball-jointed base. The thumb is on a very open, ball-jointed socket that lets it move all over the place, and there is a very solid joint in the middle of each finger as well. This is some of the best robot hand posability I have seen in years. It doesn't fall into the trap of having skeletal fingers. It doesn't fall into the trap of having the fingers be too thick to actually effectively look good in more than a couple poses. These are very well done hands and should be looked at as an example of how to do this kind of engineering. One of the trickier poses to do with the hand, though, is a fist, because we're not used to being able to form a posable hand into a fist, and this can do it very effectively. The real thing here is what you want the fist to look like. Most of the time, this is what's easiest. You have a couple of the fingers under the thumb, index finger not under the thumb. The helicopter limb is afforded the same shoulder posability once you can figure out what to do with these arms, whether you want them in or out. He's also got an identical hand and identical wrist joint, and I'd actually say that his bicep, swivel, and elbow work a little bit more solidly than Explorer's, just due to the tightness of the ball joints in place. The bicep swivel actually doesn't have to use the waist joint on this one. It's very easy due to the multiple balls to just twist the helicopter's legs and I guess kind of afford a more natural bicep swivel, which kind of look like, you know, pistons or tendons working in tandem. It's kind of cool. Explorers can kind of do the hydraulic leg thing as well, but it's far more natural for this side to use the ratcheting waist joint. And despite the addition of a pelvis piece, you can still twist him at the waist very easily. So this guy's upper body is eminently posable to lovely degrees. Things can get a little crowded down here. This pelvis piece has ball-jointed skirt armor that really is good at getting out of the way, but these minicon ports, they're really good at getting in the way. The hips are basically unhindered, but it's really easy to hook the minicon port on the inside of the skirt like this, or have it get bumped on something on the outside and not want to go underneath. Some have suggested just shaving them off, but that does rob you of the ability to form the combined vehicle mode with all the accessories, so it's kind of a thing you have to just learn about how to work with. You have to figure out, you know, where these plates tend to be in the poses you like to do, where you like them to be, what you want them to look like, you know, like flat or curled back or stuff like that. Once you figure it out, it's not too frustrating, but it is a little bit cluttered here. Both knees are able to utilize the existing Energon connection points, and they're more or less unfettered, although they are heavy enough to kind of overpower their own ratchet joints due to the sheer amount of plastic in place. There is a swivel there, though, and it's more or less well done on each one. They're identical in posing possibilities. They've got a similar amount of mass that they're taking up. Another true triumph would be the ankle joint that I don't think many of us expected to see. It's a full-on heavy ratchet that allows you to widen the Colossus stance, and that really helps with posing. That said, with this ankle joint comes a small weakness. There is no forward or backward ankle tilt, and that would have really helped too. The thing is that I don't see how both sets of joints could be fit into this little piece and have the solid ratcheting. Attaching the rifle or any weapon is pretty easy thanks to a tab built into the palm and a very tight slot built into the weapon handles. The Anti-Materiel Rifle itself is a little bit trickier than the other weapons, only because you have to be careful about how you fold the fingers before you attach the gun. You've got to bend the index finger in a little bit to fit it inside the trigger cavity. The Anti-Materiel Rifle is the longest weapon that the Colossus can wield, and it's easily the most unwieldy as well. But when you get him into a good pose, damn does this thing look really impressive. I mean, his gun is bigger than most other Transformers. He's able to assume some decent poses with it. You can even kind of approximate a sniper pose, although this guy would be the last dude that I would imagine hiding on a grassy knoll. The Colossus is also armed for melee combat with this combat knife. Combat knife for combat, who would have thought? It's interesting that there is a mounting point for it on the arm, just so you can have everything mounted on this guy at the same time. And you may remember this as the hatchet or giant sword for the Explorer. In the hands of the Colossus, it is simply a knife. It's a funky little shank that he can use to gut many a robot. Or outright shish kebab many of the smaller ones that he'd be facing. While it's not as epic as a giant broadsword or enormous battle axe, it's definitely a pretty cold and calculating weapon. And I think it was a great addition to his arsenal. Especially since he can hold it upways or downways. The final piece of main armament would be a pair of shotguns. These are actually my favorite guns for the Colossus. They mount in the hand easily, and he can hold them like this. They're simple, stubby, and effective, with 2 barrels and many excellent dual-wielding possibilities. They aren't too big to get in the way, and they aren't too small to look ineffective. Double shotguns are my preferred Colossus loadout. And, you know, just for the hell of it, you can also fold the front of his feet open to reveal Macross missile spam, you can roll up some turrets on the front of one of his legs, and there's even a little pea shooter here that's shooting up into his chest. This upgrade set takes a somewhat divisive set of molds and makes them into something that is really stark, really memorable, and incredibly badass. It adds to the aesthetics, it adds to the silhouette, it adds to the playability. If you don't have a Bruticus, then, well, watch the other 2 videos and see what you think. And I just want to clear up where I'm coming from, because there are a lot of folks who are hardcore ragging on the original Bruticus set. I love Bruticus Maximus, even though I actually own a Super Link Bruticus. I don't have the Energon version. But it's hard to argue that, well, the Fansproject editions are superior. All personal biases and artistic preferences aside, objectively, the XFire-02 set will upgrade the level of human biped resemblance, without going for a fully symmetrical look. So you don't sacrifice the 5 separate vehicle look that you get from having the original guy set up with different arms and different legs. And just in case you're wondering about the stability, because, you know, the Energon guys were pretty solid, the Fansproject Bruticus, I did not expect to be able to do this, but you can pick him up, and you can shake him like a screaming baby, and nothing comes off! This has been Internet Personality Vangelus. And I hope I've given you as comprehensive a look at the XFire-02 set, in terms of its Revenge of the Fallen / Universe counterpart, that you'd need to come to a decision on whether or not you want to pick it up. And I kinda highly recommend you do, because there's something in here for everybody. Oh, and by the way, yeah, I know, plasma machine gun. Ha ha.